The airport was buzzing with the usual chaos. Suitcases rolling, flight announcements echoing, the smell of fast food mixing with jet fuel. Marcus and Danielle had promised their kids this trip for months. It was supposed to be a celebration, their first real family vacation. Tickets booked, passports in hand, boarding passes printed. Everything was perfect. But as they approached the gate, the uniformed pilot stepped out from the jet bridge, his cap tilted low, his eyes locking on Marcus with a glare that made his stomach twist. The line of passengers shuffled forward, boarding one by one, until Marcus's family reached the front. The pilot's hand shot up, palm out like a barrier. "Hold it, not you." Marcus blinked, confused. He held out the boarding passes. "Excuse me? We're Zone 3. This is our flight." The pilot's lips curled. "Not anymore." Danielle's face paled. "What are you talking about? We have tickets, seats assigned." She fumbled with the papers, holding them up desperately. "See? Row 14, seats A through D." The pilot leaned closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "This flight doesn't need troublemakers. Not on my plane." Marcus's chest tightened. "Troublemakers? We've done nothing wrong. We just want to board." By now, other passengers were watching, slowing as they passed. Some frowned, others pulled out phones, sensing the tension thickening in the air. The gate agent shifted nervously. "Captain, maybe?" The pilot cut her off with a glare sharp enough to slice glass. "I said they're not boarding." Danielle's daughter clutched her teddy bear tighter, tears welling in her eyes. "Mommy, why won't he let us on?" Danielle's heart shattered. She crouched, whispering, "It's okay, baby. We'll fix this." But inside, rage burned hotter than fear. Marcus stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "Sir, with all due respect, you can't deny us boarding without cause. We're ticketed passengers. We've gone through security. This is our flight." The pilot smirked. "I'm the captain. I decide who flies, and I don't feel comfortable with you on my plane." Gasps rippled through the nearby passengers. Someone muttered, "That's not right." A phone camera clicked on with a soft chime, then another. Marcus felt the weight of dozens of eyes. His children were watching, the crowd was watching, and the man in front of him was daring him to explode, to give him the excuse he wanted. Danielle's hand slipped into his, trembling. "Don't, please, not here." But Marcus's voice didn't shake. "If you think you can humiliate us quietly, you're mistaken. Everyone's watching. Everyone's recording." He nodded toward the passengers holding their phones high, their screens glowing. "This won't disappear." The pilot's jaw tightened, his authority slipping as whispers grew louder. Still, his pride refused to back down. He leaned in, his words sharp and ugly. "People like you always think the rules don't apply." Marcus's blood boiled, his fists clenched, but he forced them open, keeping his voice even. "People like me? No. People like you think you can decide who belongs. But this isn't your world, Captain. It's ours too." The crowd stirred, murmurs turning into shouts. "Let them board! They paid for their seats!" Phones zoomed closer, recording every flicker of the pilot's face. And suddenly, this wasn't just about one family. It was about everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. The gate area, once filled with the usual shuffle of luggage wheels and boarding calls, now pulsed with a different energy. Passengers stopped in their tracks, phones raised high, eyes flicking between the uniformed captain and the family he was trying to block. The scene wasn't quiet anymore. It was buzzing, muttering, the beginning of something dangerous. Danielle squeezed Marcus's hand tighter, her knuckles white. Their daughter sobbed softly against her mother's hip, the teddy bear clutched so tight it seemed strained. Their son stared at the pilot, his young face twisted in confusion and anger, as if he couldn't understand how someone could hate his dad for simply existing. The gate agent's face had gone pale. She leaned in toward the pilot, whispering frantically, "Captain, please,
This isn't necessary. They've been cleared. Their paperwork's fine. We're boarding late as it is." "Quiet," the pilot snapped, his eyes never leaving Marcus. His hand hovered over the boarding scanner like a judge about to slam down a gavel. "They're not boarding. My decision is final." A man in the boarding line raised his voice. "What's wrong with them? They have tickets." He turned to the growing crowd. "He's denying them for no reason." Another voice joined in. "We're all watching. This is discrimination." Phones lifted higher. Dozens of lenses locked onto the captain's rigid face. The hum of the airport seemed to fade beneath the rising chorus of outrage. Marcus swallowed the heat in his chest. Every instinct screamed to push forward, to tear the paper boarding pass in the pilot's smug face. But his children's wide, tear-filled eyes stopped him cold. If he snapped, if he lost control, the captain would win. So instead, Marcus straightened his shoulders and spoke loud enough for every phone mic to catch. "Sir, we've paid for these tickets. We've done everything right. If you deny us boarding, you're not just breaking rules, you're exposing yourself to the world. Look around. Every camera here sees you." The captain's nostrils flared. He glanced at the phones, the crowd, the whispering passengers, and for a flicker of a moment his confidence wavered. But then he sneered, doubling down. "You think your little audience changes the facts? Not on my plane. You're a liability." Danielle's voice cracked, raw and fierce. "A liability? He's a father. I'm a mother. These are children. What danger do you think we pose? What threat are we to you?" The captain's smirk widened. "I don't need to explain myself to you." The crowd erupted in shouts. "Explain yourself! Why are you targeting them? This is racism!" Security finally appeared. Two uniformed airport officers weaving through the cluster of passengers. The captain's face brightened as if salvation had arrived. He stepped back, gesturing to Marcus. "There, remove them. They're causing a disturbance." Marcus froze, bile rising in his throat. The trap was set. The man who had humiliated them was now painting them as the aggressors. But before the officers could move, a woman stepped forward from the boarding line. She was tall, middle-aged, with silver hair tied back tight and fire in her eyes. Her voice cut sharp through the chaos. "No, he's lying. We've all been standing here watching. This family hasn't done a single thing wrong. It's him." She pointed directly at the captain. "It's him." The crowd roared in agreement. Dozens of voices shouted over one another. "It's the pilot! We saw everything! He's the problem!" The security officers faltered, their eyes widening as the shouting swelled. They looked at the pilot, then at Marcus, then at the phones angled toward them. One officer raised his hands, trying to calm the crowd. "Please, let's keep things civil." "Civil? He's trying to kick them off a plane because they're black, and you're telling us to calm down?" The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The pilot, however, stepped forward again, puffed up, his authority like a shield he refused to lower. "This is my plane. My word is final. If they step 1 foot through that jet bridge, I'm grounding this flight." The crowd gasped. The ripple of anger turned into a wave. A chorus of boos thundered through the gate. Danielle's daughter clung to her tighter, whispering, "Mommy, are we not going on vacation anymore?" The innocence of the word shattered Danielle's heart. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she kissed her daughter's forehead. "We're not leaving. No one's stopping us." Marcus's voice trembled with controlled fury as he stared the captain down. "You don't get to steal this moment from my children. Not you, not anyone." The captain laughed, cold and cruel. "Watch me." And that was the moment the crowd snapped. Phones rose higher. Voices shouted louder. Some passengers began to chant, their voices thundering in unison. "Let them board! Let them board!" Security hesitated, caught between orders and the mob of witnesses. The gate agent wrung her hands, her eyes darting between the captain and the furious passengers. Then, in a moment Marcus would never forget, one man in the crowd dropped his suitcase, turned to his wife, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "If they don't fly, we don't fly." The crowd erupted in cheers. Another passenger echoed it, "If they're off, we're all off." Suddenly, dozens of voices shouted the same, "If they don't fly, we don't fly." The chant shook the gate, echoing down the terminal, drawing even more onlookers. The captain's face drained of color. For the first time, he looked like a man outnumbered, outflanked, but still his jaw locked, his pride refusing to bend. He barked at security, "Remove them now!" The officers froze, the chant vibrating in their ears. And Danielle knew, with every fiber of her being, that this night was about to explode into something far bigger than just their family.
The chant thundered through the terminal like a heartbeat. If they don't fly, we don't fly. If they don't fly, we don't fly. Passengers stomped their feet, their voices rising with fury, with solidarity. What started as whispers had become a roar no single man could silence. Phones captured every angle, every tear on Danielle's face, every stubborn line etched into Marcus's jaw, every hateful flicker in the pilot's eyes. The airport had stopped. Security officers exchanged frantic looks, caught between the man in uniform demanding obedience and the crowd that threatened mutiny. Their radios crackled with urgent voices, supervisors already hearing about the disruption. The pilot's face twisted, red with humiliation, his authority cracking like glass under a hammer. He lunged forward, jabbing a finger into Marcus's chest. "You did this, you and your family. You think you've won because these fools are shouting? I run this plane, and I will ruin you." Marcus didn't flinch. He leaned in, his voice low but loud enough for the cameras. "You can try, but you've already lost. The world's watching, Captain, and they see you for what you are." The crowd roared with approval. The chant grew louder, more furious. Phones zoomed closer. Security finally stepped between them, palms out. "Captain, that's enough," one officer said, his voice firm but trembling with the weight of the moment. But the pilot wasn't done. He shoved the officer's hand aside and bellowed, "If they board, I'll walk off this flight. I'll call every union, every supervisor. I'll shut this whole damn airline down before I let them on my plane." The terminal fell into stunned silence. For a heartbeat, the only sound was a child's muffled sob against Danielle's shoulder. And then, applause. Not for him, for Marcus, for Danielle, for the family standing their ground. The crowd clapped, cheered, voices rising higher than the captain's threats. "Let them fly! Justice for this family!" The captain spun, desperate, looking for backup. But the gate agent had stepped away, her phone to her ear, her eyes cold as she reported what was happening. Security officers weren't moving against Marcus. They were watching him. A final voice cut through the chaos. Deep, commanding, unmistakable. "Captain Reynolds." Every head turned. A man in a dark suit strode down the jet bridge, flanked by two airline supervisors. His badge caught the glow of the terminal lights. His tone carried the weight of authority even the captain couldn't challenge. "Step aside, now." Reynolds' face flushed purple. "These people!" "Enough!" The supervisor's voice cracked like a whip. He turned to Marcus and Danielle, his tone softer. "Sir, ma'am, you have tickets. You've done nothing wrong. Please, board with your family." The crowd erupted in cheers. Danielle gasped, tears spilling over as she clutched her daughter's hand. Marcus's chest tightened as his son grinned for the first time that night. Together, they stepped forward, boarding passes held high, their dignity unshaken.
The pilot's voice rose one last time, shrill, desperate. "If they get on that plane, I swear! Captain Reynolds, you're relieved of duty. Effective immediately. Security, escort him out." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phone zoomed in as Reynolds' authority was stripped away in real time. His cap tilted, his jaw slack, his career shattering before 1,000 recording eyes. "No!" he shouted, but the officers took his arms, pulling him back as the crowd jeered. "You can't do this to me!" But they could, and they did. As Reynolds was dragged away, Marcus and Danielle walked down the jet bridge, their children clinging close. Passengers clapped, some reaching out to pat Marcus on the shoulder, others calling out words of support. "Stay strong! We're with you! You showed him!" Inside the plane, the family found their seats, row 14, just like their tickets promised. Danielle buckled their daughter in, brushing her curls back with trembling hands. Marcus helped his son stow the suitcase, then sank into his seat, his body trembling with the release of adrenaline. For a moment, the world seemed to exhale. The hum of the engines, the shuffle of passengers finding their seats, the intercom crackling to life, all ordinary sounds, yet charged with something extraordinary. Danielle squeezed Marcus's hand. I thought he was going to take everything from us." Marcus kissed her knuckles, his voice rough. "He tried, but he failed." He glanced at his children, their wide eyes still filled with questions, with confusion, with fear. "They'll remember tonight, but not because we were broken, because we stood tall." The flight attendants moved quietly down the aisle, their eyes soft, their smiles tentative. One leaned close, whispering, "We're so sorry. What happened out there was wrong, but you're safe now." Marcus nodded, gratitude swelling in his chest. Safe, for now. As the plane pushed back from the gate, the chant still echoed faintly from the terminal. Passengers on board whispered about what they'd witnessed, what they'd recorded, what they'd share with the world. The videos would spread like wildfire. The story would ignite headlines. The captain who tried to humiliate a family for nothing would find his name burned into infamy. And Marcus, Danielle, and their children would not be remembered as victims. They would be remembered as survivors who refused to bow. The plane lifted into the night sky, engines roaring, clouds parting. Marcus closed his eyes, his son's small hand gripping his tightly, his daughter's soft breathing steady beside him. He whispered to himself, to his family, to anyone listening in the universe. "You can try to clip our wings, but we will always fly."